is day 1481. 1481. Let's see if this is all working. I'll turn it down right away. And I'm going to try to get better, fancier on this stuff. We'll see where I can put up pictures. And I was doing that once upon a time, but all of that takes preparation, and we are just, like our little law firm here. We're a little law firm. We are the media. We are the investigators. we, I tell you, so today is our anniversary, 36 years, that, Rob and I, that's Richard's father, were married, and, wow, it's been, absolutely wonderful. Not trouble-free, especially when you have all the deployments and you have illnesses, and you have things like this with Richard, and yeah, but together with God, we've made it 36 years, and really happy. Sometimes we've looked at each other and we're like, what does God want? And we know, we're almost afraid to, or embarrassed to ask it, because we know what God wants. He wants us to be warriors, the real kind of warriors for Him, to strap on that full armor of God in our boots, and do the right thing. Do the right thing. That's it. And that right there is the battle. So thank you for coming on, Anicia. So today, I was just telling everyone it's our anniversary, and what an amazing day. But we are the investigators. We are the media, which is so disheartening. There is a lot of ethical journalists out there, but then there are the unethical, like Angela Kachurga and Bob Moore and others. And I think that there is, it's just, for example, our daughter, of course, lives in South Korea. And just recently, a Mercedes electric vehicle, wasn't plugged in, exploded in their parking garage, which is in the basement. You should see the pictures. I really need to make some YouTubes with it, or some, maybe all of you can help, because I don't think that the media is doing their job in covering this disaster in Incheon, South Korea. 5 buildings, and it's for political reasons. And so our media have become political creatures, controlled by political elements. So even if you're an ethical journalist, you are hamstrung. And that's not freedom. That is absolutely not freedom. And that's not what journalists do, right? That's not what they're supposed to do. This is a huge deal. Let me tell you, and I didn't know this. This is just because of what has happened in the last 2 weeks. When and other people know it because they keep track of vehicles and electric vehicles and the new technology and all of that. But I haven't, because, of course, with Richard's case and everything else. But But I didn't realize that when lithium batteries burn, they are so hot. They burn so hot that the fire departments have a really hard time putting them out. It is very, very difficult to put out. Matter of fact, they were writing that they can't put them out. They have to try to contain it as well as they can and just let it burn out. And I didn't know that. And when they burn, it is a toxic smoke. And this has to do with Richard. This has to do with Richard. He joined the army from South Korea. And here in the last couple weeks, because it is still ongoing, this Mercedes electric vehicle, beautiful vehicle, you can't, and why do I call out Mercedes? Because I know Mercedes. Mercedes are a quality vehicle. It's not like they put this EV together with gum and rubber bands. This is a quality vehicle. And yet, it exploded. And it wasn't even plugged in. It wasn't even plugged in. Over 200 vehicles totally damaged. The smoke and soot are so toxic. And all this talk about environmentalists, and the media being environmentalist and everything like that. And we have heard only very, very little on this disaster in Incheon, South Korea. It's sickening that because this is real news. You have the because it's underground and the way they live there in the city, 5 high rises up to 25 stories was affected. Not only that, the community center. Not only that, in the basement is where my grandson goes to do his taekwondo, where my granddaughter goes to do her ballet, right? Where the pool is for the swim lessons. That's in the basement. This smoke and the soot is so toxic. And because that vehicle burned for over 8 hours at high temperature, 8 hours, over 170 firefighters could not put it out because it burned so hot and so toxic with black toxic soot. And it destroyed over 200 cars down there and up through even metal doors. That smoke and soot went up 25 stories in 5 buildings, every apartment. And these are condos, to be honest with you. Condos. Some of them are rented out, but they are rented out by the owners. So these are all condos. And they went up 25 stories. And the higher your apartment, your condo is, the worse it was. The black soot, toxic. They have to get rid of all their food, all their furniture, all their clothes, all their mattresses, all their curtains. 5 buildings, 25 stories high each. Thousands of people. And just think of the toxicity, because it goes up all in the vents. When it first happened, I told my daughter, I said, oh my gosh, um, this can be really bad. I slept on it. And, Rob and I the next day were like, you need to brace yourself because this is bad. But everyone's okay. Everyone's okay. That's the most important thing. And, they're on their Korean chats. And she was telling me about this old grandmother who had spent months um, working on garlic because they eat a lot of garlic there, and she sells her garlic. She promotes the garlic, and she was crying over all the work she had lost. I'm sure she'll be real. I hope she's going to be reimbursed for her work and for um, the money. But people might laugh about that, but it's not covered in the news like it should be, and that's my point. We have to be our own media. And everything that I just said about this disaster in Incheon is true. And I have more information because I have direct videos, communication with my son-in-law who, can you imagine? Nobody can live in their condo. It's uninhabitable. 5 buildings, 25 stories, uninhabitable. No water because it broke the water. It burns so hot. And it's not in the news. This is a major news story. And it's something that every politician should be talking about. I did not really listen to the Trump and Elon Musk interview last night. I'm planning on listening to it. It's not that I didn't want to listen to it. I think it's important to listen to it. Let me know. Thank you, Jennifer, for wishing us a happy anniversary. It was a happy anniversary. We had a really great day today, and we worked hard too. We worked hard, and I'm going to get to that with because we're our own investigators. And the point that I really want to make is that the news is not covering it. The politicians are not covering it. Or maybe I'm missing it. Where is all of the environmentalists? Where are all the politicians that are so for the environment? Are they lying to us and just wrapped up in deals with electric car manufacturing? Or are they truly for our environment? Because I don't understand why this is not a huge discussion in policies, in all the politics, because this affects our future. This is, tax money goes to that. This is a huge movement towards that. Do we really want to do that? Is there something better? Is there something better? And to Richard's case, we have provided evidence, so much evidence, that even the Board of Inquiry of the United States government were driven to declare Richard deceased, and in the it was very clear, murdered on Fort Bliss, July 2020. We have provided so much hard evidence, circumstantial evidence, and irregularities, eyewitness testimonies, witness testimonies, that they were driven to do that. And it wasn't only to the government that information. We practically were begging to speak to Bob Moore of El Paso Matters. 15 times. They're in real big trouble, y'all. Over no less than 15 times we have reached out to Bob Moore of El Paso Matters. It's more now. Giving them Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, El Paso Community Foundation, because they're the same. And El Paso Community Foundation used to own KTSM, right? They had I don't know if they had total ownership, but they had ownership of that, investment in that. So there's a huge, they have agreements with each other, okay? El Paso Matters and KTSM have contracts with each other. And we're giving them so, I mean, you're talking about an illegal medical examiner, a usurper, absolutely confirmed usurper of the district attorney's office. We have open records of them even participating in the crimes. We have all kinds of evidence about Richard, right? All kinds of irregularities about Richard. Because we know that, for one, what's going on with Park University? Right? There should be investigative journalism into Park University. And we gave that information out about Park University. We gave the information out about the collaboration and also the conflicts of interest of the individuals that live on Bliss Avenue, that have connections to the rogue group of the original response team in Richard's case, in the Walmart case. And remember, Richard's case is like before the Walmart mass shooting case. So we've given this out. And then we became part of, we were so, well, the evidence is there. If you spill milk and you see that it's white, you can say milk is white. So our evidence, we had the open records. We saw it. Bill Hicks is a usurper, tampering with official government documents of the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office. And that really bothers us because our son's case, with many other cases, is partly dependent on having a legal, legitimate district attorney in El Paso. And we put that, and we were so, well, you have it, right? We're so sure of it, we have it, that we wrote the SB4 case, with the amicus brief. I had never done an amicus brief before. Rob never had done an amicus brief before. We have to be our own law firm. We have to say, wait a minute, how can we get the news out there? We're being shadow banned. We're being, censored. How can we get the news out there to the people of El Paso that their criminal justice system is broken? Because if we help El Paso, if we help El Pasoans and their criminal justice system, let them know. Maybe they will demand that the journalists will write about it, right? Then that would help us. If we help them with all the research we're doing, then in turn, helping those cases would also help our case. And so we submitted the amicus brief to the SB4 case because that would get out to the civil rights attorneys. I think 19 of them. It would get out to the media. I mean, SB4 case is a huge case. And we, of course, notified the media of what we had done. We notified, and it put us in connection with several people that we're very grateful for now. But it's a big deal. And what happened? We were mocked. We were mocked. Like, oh, whatever. No, it's not whatever. These are some of the most controlling people, and they want to keep the criminality in El Paso. And so they will do a psyop on the people of El Paso, the hardworking, the ones that work in restaurants, the ones that work in shops, the ones that make the system run. And they're busy. The moms, the teachers, they're all busy. And all they hear is, oh, that family, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't have enough evidence. No, you have to understand, in order to get the courage up, in this, we were at J6. All you had to do was show up at J6, get up there close to the Capitol, and you could be put in prison. We're talking about right now in our day and age with a weaponized Department of Justice. You have to be pretty sure. You have to be sure. You have to be 100% sure before you create an amicus brief and submit it to a case that is a very hot case, a very visible case like the SB4 when it comes to immigrants, right? A political case. You're shining the light on yourself by doing it. Not with the people, they're busy, but with the law enforcement community, the legal community, the tax community, the government, anyone that's up to no good. You're making their eyes go on you. So you better be sure about what you write. And they play dirty. And where are the investigative journalists to say, you know what, they play dirty? They have a good point. I did, an open records. And this is what Bill Hicks was saying in the recording that we have because of open records. Thank God we still can get open records. Not all of them. Not all of them. Because they work against you. But we do get some of them. And it took a long time for us to even get the body cam footage, right, from the police officer. that totally showed Richard so beautiful. Um, but this recording that we got from Bill Hicks is, shows the scheming. Oh, this guy got the ear of a reporter. This guy in Austin got the ear of a reporter and some attorneys here in El Paso. You see, that's what he made the crisis call with and about. He needed a scheme to block access to the reporter and attorneys, or to the individual from Austin, who we know who he is. When we heard that, we were like, wow, he's scheming. How many times do they scheme to thwart justice? Because they are covering up their own crimes. It's like Donna Martin, right? The 3-star general Donna Martin. She's supposed to be, because she's IG, looking into what she did when she was the head of the CID, when she was the provost marshal. Now, there's something wrong there. That she's supposed to be investigating herself and her own actions. And even with all of that, we have, thank you, Martha. Thank you for your prayers. Even with all of that, that in itself is a huge story. Where is the stories about Donna Martin? I thought that LULAC cared about Hispanics. They don't care about Vanessa Guillen? Because Donna Martin was directly responsible for the very slow find of Vanessa Guillen's body. And Donna Martin schemed with General McConville, James McConville, to have that dog and pony show that I don't know how much money that cost taxpayers in El Paso, called Task Force Find Richard Halliday, without an op board. It was just a dog and pony show. And they knew it, and that's why they did not wear their uniforms. They came in their civilian attire. And who led that? Donna Martin. Where is the coverage of that? Where is the coverage? Where is the true caring about the people? Because all of our soldiers are important. And when you're a whistleblower, you're supposed to get whistleblower protection. But there's scheming going on in the background. There's so much scheming that's why we have to come on and broadcast every day and be our own media, even though we get blocked, even though we get shadow banned, even though we get censored, which is unconstitutional. And one of the, of course, Nadal Baim and Tavita Nusa, they're all being ghosted. Jules Tuganon Chan of Fit Fam El Paso. And that, people because we're in talks with several that kind of has piqued some interest. Okay, we've got some interest in what, and that should have happened a long time ago, right? Because we've had FitFam El Paso LLC. If you're just coming on, you're just new to this case, we acquired FitFam El Paso LLC because it had been forfeited. It was defaulted. And the brand names, the real FitFam El Paso and FitFam El Paso, were also available. They were available. And so we acquired them legally. And there's this interest now. What are you going to do with it? Why did you do that? Because Jules Tuganon Chan is trying to ghost himself. He's in the security world, the security industry. And yet, when it comes to a murdered soldier on Fort Bliss who was whistleblowing, and his case is totally connected to the Walmart mass shooting, and this is where I'm getting to Ernest Christopher Grant. He's engaging with Bob Moore. They have agreements with Bob Moore. So, when you look at the stories, there's this trifecta, right? This evil trifecta that we had to deal with. That was putting out false information about Richard. And we couldn't overlook it because from the very beginning, we've been trained now. We've honed into that. Because from the very beginning, they were smearing Richard to our face. And Richard was never missing, okay? But they were telling us he was missing. He was telling the El Paso community, the Fort Bliss community, that Richard was missing. And all the while, they knew exactly what happened to him and had his remains and have his remains. And we want his remains. But he was never missing, y'all. They murdered him. And they have his remains. But they were telling us misinformation. They were telling the community misinformation. They were even telling the law enforcement, the broader law enforcement community, misinformation. And the broader, I believe, media misinformation. Look at what the PAO did. Allie Payne Scott, whatever, and Nick Brown Bell, Nuff Ziegler, right? These are individuals with aligning with Jules Tuganon Chan. Who's Jules Tuganon Chan? Well, he's Mr. X. He's Mr. X. He was years before, look at the articles, bragging that he was anonymous, that the real FitFam El Paso Instagram running on FitFam El Paso LLC, we are anonymous. And even University of Texas in El Paso, UTEP, was saying that's not right. That's not right. Because they know. They know it wasn't right. Who in the world has that kind of influence and is allowed to stay anonymous? A Mr. X. It's like Nadal Baim. The army wanted him to be Mr. X. Anonymous. Just some guy. No, he's not just some guy. Why don't you tell us who he is? He's not just some guy. And don't tell me that you can't tell us who he is. And they never did. We had to find out for ourselves that it was Nadal Baim. And that's why that whole thing with Nastasia Paloma and everything was going on when it was in 2021. Because we had told the command with evidence, hard evidence, who the FBI man, his identity, who walked in to a Dollar General and spoke to a cashier and said, take down the flyers of Richard Halliday. Now, when someone tells you, take down the flyers of a soldier who's supposed to be missing, but he's never missing. He knew he wasn't missing. He goes, you can take him down. Really? What happened? What's the matter? The cashier asked. He's dead. We found him in Juarez, Mexico. Now, I summarize that real quick for time's sake, but, you know, they wanted to keep him and that information hidden from us, from Fort Bliss, from law enforcement, from media, from El Pasoans, because he's not just a nobody, he's somebody. And Jules Tuganon Chan is also somebody. And he's also somebody who ignored us like Bob Moore. Ignore. We're going like, who are you? Can we talk? Can we tell you that the story that you put up there by Bob Moore and dirty Angela Kachurga, so slimy Angela Kachurga, that is false information, that is breaking the law. It's putting up federally protected information. It's putting up misinformation. We have the information on why we received the declaration of death. They had to post about the declaration of death, right? And they chose Bob Moore with slimy and dirty slime. There's nothing worse than dirty slime, right? Angela Kachurga to partner up to misdirect this case again. And, so we're like, geez, Bob Moore's not answering us. Jules Tuganon Chan, we don't even know who he is. At this point, he's Mr. X. Mr. X is ignoring us. Who is this guy? He's got over 400,000 followers in El Paso. Who is this guy? And then, of course, KTSM, who we all know who KTSM is. Bliss Avenue. Bliss Avenue with ties into Juarez, Univision. It's up to no good there. Let me tell you, KTSM is, wow. If I could say what I really think, wow. Read between the lines. They're up to no good. And, so we found out. We have been made the investigators. We were made the investigators as soon as Richard was put back on the rolls, because they said, okay, well, we'll put him back on the rolls, but we can't do anything unless you bring us leads. What do you mean we have to bring you leads? Yeah, you have to bring us leads, otherwise we can't do anything. We were told that by the CID. We were told that by the command, in that task force. You have to bring us leads or we can't do it. We can't help you. What do you mean you have 15 plus agencies and we have to provide the leads? Are you kidding me? You have Homeland Security, you have the FBI, you have the CID, you have uh, the whole military, you've got the IG, you've got everybody. And we're the ones that have to do the investigation to bring forth the leads? Yes, that's what we were told. And so we went to work. Okay. We want to know. We want to know what happened to our son. We'll go to work. We'll go to work. And with those skills that we've learned day in and day out, when it came to not being responded to by FitFam El Paso, we went to work. Team Find Richard Halliday discovered who he was. And in that discovery, we discovered that back in March of 2021, they defaulted on FitFam El Paso LLC. And so, who would believe that? Who would believe that? I mean, here we are saying, look, we have a video of this FBI man going into the Dollar General store. We have a video of the cashier less than an hour later. We have Bob Moore putting out false information about our son's death declaration. Are they going to believe us that Jules Tuganon Chan and his brother and several others that are in the security industry and military are up to no good over there at Instagram? And they're operating on a forfeitured LLC? Who's going to believe that? Who's going to do anything about that? Is the busy person working hard in El Paso going to care? If I say it on a shadow banned podcast of some mother that can't get over her son's death? This is this crazy mother. I'm not crazy. I want my son's remains, and I want those that murdered Richard held accountable. They can't just give you a declaration of death and say, wash your hands of it. What is it? Is that like a blood deal or something? No. We don't accept it. I mean, we accept the declaration of death, of course. But we don't accept that that's the end. That they should just get away with murder. And it's not just murdering Richard. It's a criminal enterprise. It's a criminal network who's hurting people in Juarez, because don't forget, and I want to say ours, but Rob was there. I was there too, but he was primarily the one doing it. He went over there a few times to the AG's office in Juarez and talked to them and submitted a missing persons report over there. That was tampered with lies, with a smear campaign on Richard and our family. Things were put in writing that Rob never said. But who's going to believe us? So that acquiring FitFam El Paso LLC Nobody can dispute that. And there's going to be disruptions from that. Just like with the SB4 case. And I don't, we'll see how it all, we're trying to figure it all out. We have to become paralegals. We have to become lawyers in this, right? Otherwise they'll, because even, look, when we were in El Paso to begin with, they were like, you get your lawyer, get your PI, get this. And then, it's like they have their little buddies, or they intimidate, or they, whatever they do behind the scenes. So it's very hard to trust. So we've just, hunkered down and put those boots on and put the full armor of God on and started learning and started submitting the reports, because we realized that what they want to do is frustrate you so much that you will throw your hands up and walk away. Don't let them do that to you. Do not let them do that to you. Every single day, God will do justice. I remember when they told you to bring the leads. By the way, happy anniversary. Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much. And yeah, and absolutely, God's hand has been on all of this. Can you believe it that God made things happen that we could find out who Nadal Baim is, and it's Team Find Richard Halliday, y'all. We're not when I say we're the investigators, it's all of you, because we're being sent all this information, and then we go and get it corroborated, or search it to make sure how it's connected with everything. And we're so grateful. And we found out who Nadal Baim is. We found out who Jules Tuganon Chan is. And, if he forfeited and defaulted on his LLC in March of 2021, I mean, how do you pay your taxes with that? And, Instagram, we're learning about their functions there with the Real Fit Femme El Paso. And are they using our brand name? Are they still, so that's why it's piquing interest, because it's like, what now? What's going on behind the scenes? Because there are active and ongoing investigations, because behind the scenes we reported it. We reported it. We reported Nadal Baim. What happened to Eisenhower? Where is he? I'd like to know where he is. Because we reported that commander, I don't know how many times. And I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's not funny. I've done over 2,000 live streams, and Rob has submitted and filed and sent off hundreds of communications. And so when we say we have a recording of Bill Hicks scheming, we have a recording of Bill Hicks scheming. When we say he's a usurper and absolutely throwing the whole criminal justice system in chaos in El Paso, that's what he's doing. He needs to be arrested. He's a criminal, an absolute criminal. And we have given this information to Like where is Stars and Stripes Rose Thayer? Where is she? She was so ready. She was the first one that smeared Richard. I'll never forget her. Rose Thayer of Stars and Stripes, the slayer of character of our soldiers when they cannot even defend themselves. That's who Rose Thayer, the slayer of our innocent volunteer soldiers that can't defend themselves when they're vulnerable. That's who she is. And do you think we asked her to take that back? Do you think she would? Because what she wrote in the very first article of Richard was such a smear campaign. It was heartbreaking. It was shocking to us. Now I don't get so shocked. I'm so used to these people being heartless and tools for the weaponization of our organizations, our agencies, our institutions. She was the first. Rose Thayer, the slayer of our soldiers when they're the most vulnerable. And so we have provided hard evidence, very circumstantial evidence, and irregularities that are out there. We've just assembled them, collected them, and then we have verbally told everybody that Ernest Christopher Grant is no good. He's a criminal. Just like Leilani Hart, Richard's platoon leader's mother. She's a criminal. Just like, I would say, Jules Tuganon Chan is a criminal. Absolute criminal. Just like Bob Moore. Just like Bill Hicks. And, of course, Mario Raskin Ortiz, the chief medical examiner. Just like these generals that are involved. Just like DES Thomas Kane, he's a criminal. Absolute criminal. And those that know exactly Richard's connection with Park University, criminals. And we've given that information out there, and we have more about Ernest Christopher Grant, even though they very quickly, when we called him out, started ghosting him, just like Tavita Nusa. And are these journalists, right? Oh, Bob Moore, he uses the prime suspect in Richard's murder case as a source. That's what he does, as a source to intimidate and retaliate against a witness, to obstruct justice in Richard's case. He uses the very prime suspect as a source. And lately, in another story, and I'm not going to, maybe you'll know what I'm talking about, and maybe he's listening, but another journalist used another unreliable criminal source named Ernest Christopher Grant. Any journalist that gives any weight to Ernest Christopher Grant as a source for anything that happened at the Walmart mass shooting is not an ethical journalist. is playing politics with the case, is playing politics for Bill Hicks, is playing politics for the Bob Moores and the Jules Tuganon Chans and the, you know, that's what they're doing. For the criminal networking, which is hurting. Well, the criminal justice system is broken in El Paso. It is totally broken. And so what they're doing, and this is testament to the beautiful people of El Paso, right? Because you're operating in a district that the prosecutor is a usurper. And, yes, there's crime. But, you're right there in borderland. This is a testament to the people. And it's like, why do we even need them then, right? I think we would be better off because the problems that they cause. And, Bill Hicks has ties to Dallas, and so does Ernest Christopher Grant. They have ties to Dallas, Texas. So does Angela Kachurga. She has ties to Dallas. Her husband writes for Dallas Morning News. And, when he had to find a source to get to the bottom of what happened at the Walmart, who did he use? I think he used 3 individuals. One of them, Texas Heart. Really? Really? Yeah. And that, do not tell me that's a coincidence. That Bob Moore uses Leilani Hart as a source, and she is a confirmed convicted criminal and a prime suspect in our case, and he uses her to obstruct justice in our case. So this rogue criminal group from the original response team is, well, they're being investigated. They're being investigated. And please, when you read anything that uses Leilani Hart as a source, or Ernest Christopher Grant as a source, or Belen Rocha, Bob Moore used Belen Rocha, and I'm like, really? I mean, I have on record Belen Rocha's mother lying to me. Belen lying. Belen collaborating with Marlon Soto of the CID. And because of her youth, because of the PI thinking, okay, well, we got her wrapped around our finger because of her connections. She has major connections, Ortega connections, okay? Was Bill Hicks in partnership with an Ortega? Yeah. Yeah. These lawyers, let me tell you, there's some really dirty lawyers. I mean, oh, it's not laughable. It really is. Yeah. And, this Ernest Christopher Grant situation, that he is being protected, and he has a criminal record. And he's such a criminal when it comes to this Walmart mass shooting. To me, in my opinion, he's a suspect. He's not a victim. He's a suspect. And, that's just my opinion. I suspect him for wrongdoing in the Walmart mass shooting. And the El Paso Police Department, when they declared him a liar, when he was arrested at the White House, when they ghosted him after letting him be the media sweetheart with Chris Cuomo and Beto O'Rourke and, you know, and by the way, this new Whispers, a new article that just came out that absolutely connects Bill Hicks with um, Veronica Escobar. I was like, yes, thank you. It was nothing. We have evidence of them being collaborating together, but that is now additional evidence of their collaboration. They're up to no good. And because she is connected to the illegal chief medical examiner, and then Bill Hicks is connected to Dallas, Texas, not Dallas Hart, the platoon leader of Richard that's a prime suspect in the murder of Richard, but no, Dallas, Texas. He was named after Dallas, Texas because Leilani Hart likes the Dallas Cowboys. I guess. That's what I was told by one of her victims. She really liked the Dallas Cowboys. And you know, and that was probably the only good thing he said about her. Because we know she has mental health issues. We know she's a convicted criminal. We know that Bob Moore used her as a source. We know that she confessed that her family is involved in incest and child sexual abuse, illegal weapons purchasing, child pornography, and that she didn't report it earlier because she had death threats on her from her family, from her family member, and you know, and more. And then that's corroborated by other communications. And you know, why would I say this on here? Because it gives you the motive why Richard turned into a whistleblower. Belin Rocha said he turned her in multiple times. And he had video evidence. And he turned that in. She said that multiple times. On record. And then Leilani Hart made her confession legal, notarizing it, turning it into the CID, having it referred to the FBI, getting the numbers, telling everybody that she has the numbers, handing out the numbers of her cases. That's why we have the numbers of her cases, and verified that those cases exist. And we have the confession. And she was Richard's platoon leader's mother. Connected to the CID. And Richard wanted to be CID. There's just so many connections here. But he absolutely saw something and said something and collected evidence, turned in evidence to the Child Protective Services. And then, of course, we have evidence that he was in communication with Washington, D.C., which is corroborated by when I traced the phone calls that were harassing us. One went right to the White House. I'm like, what? No way. I did it again. Goes right to the White House. Why was a number that was connected to the White House being used to send us vile and vulgar, harassing, threatening messages? Explain that. One came from Canada, right? From what's the capital? And one came from Korea, Seoul, Korea, right by the FBI office. And one came from NATO. So, really? Why are numbers being used that are connected to these government numbers? And the very people that are being used as sources are prime suspects. And then when you reach out to media and say, look, we want to, here are the case numbers. Here's what's going on. Here are the allegations. Why are you using her as a source to retaliate against a witness in our son's case? To smear our son, to misdirect our son's case, and then to be ignored. So if you're wondering why we put out the information about Ernest Christopher Grant, we have, let's just say that he is connected to the original response team. Like Jules Tuganon Chan was part of our, responding, communicating on this website, the Facebook Team Find Richard Halliday website, since 2021. No, 2022. Sorry, 2022, early 2022. Why? And then when we find out who he is, he goes to the very group that is sheltering or harboring. Yeah, harboring is a good word. Harboring the prime suspects. And then we find out all these LLCs are involved. And then we find out his LLC is forfeitured, is defaulted. So when you're in this kind of situation, and the media is so controlled, right? Is so controlled, and giving out so much false information. When I read through a story now, I comb through it. And then you have to fact check the fact checkers, right? You have to fact check the fact checkers. So, and all of those stories are so important because they're history. They're writing history for us. And those documents, all those articles, they can be used in a court of law as evidence. They shift policy. They're used to form policy, to frame policy. It's very important. And I didn't know. And they depend on us not knowing. And that's why I come on every day to let people know why we're doing things. What is our goal? Our goal is to absolutely get Richard's remains, have his remains honored. They dishonored his remains, y'all. His corpse. It wasn't enough that they retaliated against him and murdered him brutally, but they also had to dishonor his remains. So we want his remains. We want to honor his remains. It's very important for our family, for the future of our family, for the future of our community, for our whole community. And I think it's important for every veteran. I think it's important for every active duty member of the military that we will not rest until our son's remains are honored, because he did not die over some vast ocean in some war campaign over jungles or in the desert in enemy territory. And even with that, families and the military never rested. Vietnam, years went by and they made sure when they found remains, they brought them home and honored their soldiers. Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. They have his remains. There is no excuse. He was murdered on American soil. There's no excuse. So we want his remains, and uh, we want his character reinstated, because, and we have collected some bombshells, y'all. We are in the process of submitting a demand, not a request, a demand that Richard's Gomar, Article 15, everything they did to him to smear him, that it all be rescinded. All be rescinded, that he is given his rank back, everything. Everything. And we are in the process of demanding it, because what we have uncovered is so bombshell that we feel confident that we can demand it. I mean, of course, Melendez being the canine cop, making the stop in the parking lot, and is a relative of Belen Rocha, Bliss Avenue, all that stuff. That's all good. That's all great evidence, but it's not bombshell. That's not what I'm talking about. And so, we're working very hard on that. And I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to be. It's, all this because of FitFam, where we're working hard on FitFam. And of course, there's a new commander on Fort Bliss, and we really need some communication with him, some communication time with him, and to let him know what's going on Fort Bliss. I'm sure he's been briefed, but he needs to know our side of the story. So, but it's been very busy, and I'm giving you the inside scoop, right? And some people watching are not on Team Farm Richard Halliday, and we're giving them the inside scoop, because there are active and ongoing state and federal investigations going on, and we want them to know that they don't want to be on the wrong side of this capital murder case, on the wrongful death case suit. They don't want to be on the wrong side. This is a capital murder case. The penalty is lethal injection. That's the max punishment. It's there. Why would you want to be on the wrong side? And I don't know how people can sleep being on the wrong side. So, you know, I'm going to say this, but we have been, you know, reaching out to all of the witnesses out there, and I know that they've been harassed and that, but there's a lot that you know, you can find a way. And really, we're that's all water under the bridge, the whole immunity thing, all that. That is at this point, at this point, too much is out there. Too much is out there. And and you don't want to be on the wrong side of this case because um, the amount of criminality in this case has reached, in our opinion, absolutely it deserves consideration, the lethal injection. That's how damaging it is to our military, this case. And think about it, Richard's case, now with Ernest Christopher Grant, because it's connected, they're connected. That Walmart mass shooting case, y'all, when that breaks open, you're just going to be like, oh my gosh, these people are such evil criminals. They're not just criminals, they're evil criminals. And in my opinion, Ernest Christopher Grant is a huge suspect. A huge suspect. And it is interesting that Bill Hicks has connections up in Dallas, right where Ernest Christopher Grant has connections. That's interesting. And that Bill Hicks has connections with Veronica Escobar. And that's not me saying it. That's already documented in articles. So, yeah. So thank you for the anniversary. We're already burning the midnight oil. It's already the 14th. But yeah, we had a great day today. Really, you know, carved out a huge bunch of time to spend together, and you know, look at our pictures when we were uh, very, very young, and our wedding pictures and a little video that Allison put together for us, and that, and had a great, wonderful meal together. And you know, you've got to take those times out with each other to get um, through the battle, right? You've got to take that time out, and even in the relaxation of it, you have discussions, and it always moves you forward. The rest seems to move you forward. It's really remarkable. Um, so yeah, so thank you to everyone. God bless you. Yeah, I got beautiful, beautiful flowers. They're absolutely gorgeous. So thank you, everyone. Please keep sending the evidence. Keep sending the connections. We really appreciate it. You can find a way, make a way to do it. Um, we'll keep you anonymous, but absolutely keep sending it because, you know, we have three things that we are working on, and that is getting Richard's remains, getting his character uh, reestablished, and all of his retaliation, even though they've never really given it to us completely. It's really weird. And then they wiped it, and then they promoted him, and they did this. All of that has to be officially acknowledged and put right. And of course, those that did this to Richard need to be held accountable because they not only did it to Richard, but they did it to the military, they did it to the American people, they did it to Fort Bliss and El Paso. And anytime you do anything to El Paso, you're doing it to Juarez, because those are Siamese sister cities. We're connected. And so what Ernest Christopher Grant said, his lies, what he said is absolutely not representative of the historical sister cities of El Paso and Juarez, Mexico. And what he said was so politically aimed to tamper with the election. That's what that was. And just keep reading it. And I would put, yeah, anyway. So thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.